Imagine being christened with a name so long it takes a full minute just to pronounce it. That's the world of Johann Gambolputty. His name, a symphony of syllables, is an absurd masterpiece that rivals his peculiar compositions. There's a playful rhythm to it, an unending cascade of words that dances on the tongue and bewilders the mind. It's longer than a sonnet, more intricate than a fugue, and as head-scratchingly peculiar as the man himself. Johann Gambolputty, a man of many notes and even more syllables, is a testament to the beauty of absurdity. His life, a melodious journey through the whimsical and the bizarre, is as captivating as it is confusing. His compositions, much like his name, are a testament to the power of the peculiar. So, let's dive into the life of the man whose name was a symphony in itself, Johann Gambolputty. Born in Quirkington in 1672, Johann Gambolputty's existence was orchestrated with uniqueness from the onset. His upbringing was a concert of peculiarities, an enchanting mix of recorder squawks and Jew's harp twangs that reverberated throughout the cobblestone lanes of his charming hamlet. Young Johann was more than just a child holding a recorder. He was a budding virtuoso, a prodigy whose odd tunes were as intrinsic to him as his absurdly long name. His musical adventure, saturated with quirks, was as extraordinary as the instruments he would later craft. Johann's intriguing passion for music transcended the normative. He discerned splendor in the peculiar, the bizarre, the absolutely ridiculous. The crow's caw, the donkey's bray, the cat's purr. These were the elements that constituted his childhood concert. He was a youngster who would sooner play a melody on a makeshift drum set than a perfectly tuned piano. As Johann matured, his quirks flourished into a strange fascination for unconventional musical instruments. His inquisitiveness prompted him to experiment with the strange and the unheard of. The steam piano, a peculiar device emitting misty harmonies, and the horse-drawn kazoo, a fanciful instrument driven by equine exhalations, were merely the initiation of his inventive odyssey. The realm of music, however, was not fully prepared to welcome his quirks. His compositions, a discordant stew of turmoil and befuddlement, were unlike anything the world had ever heard. They were akin to a Picasso painting in the realm of music, ingenious, yet puzzling. But Johann, unperturbed by the perplexed faces and quizzical looks, continued to tread to the rhythm of his own oddly tuned drum. His oddities, instead of dwindling, augmented with each passing year, molding his musical journey in ways no one could have foreseen. And so from cacophony of recorder squawks and Jew's harp twangs, a curious musical prodigy was born. Johann Gambolputty, the offspring from Quirkington, was en route to becoming the maestro of Baroque brilliance, a concert of peculiarities that the world was not yet ready to comprehend. Johann Gambolputty didn't just play the music, he reinvented it. With a mind as expansive as his name, Gambolputty was a virtuoso of the outlandish. His creations were not just instruments, they were bewildering contraptions that defied musical norms. Imagine, if you will, a steam piano. A foggy symphony, each note shrouded in a puff of steam, which quite literally set the stage alight. It was less a recital, more a spectacle, and the audience often left drenched in confusion and condensation. Then there was the horse-drawn kazoo, an instrument that would have given horsepower a whole new meaning, were it not for the fact that it was powered by equine breaths. The resulting melody was a blend of neighs and nasal twangs that left listeners with a bizarre craving for hay and a strong desire to bolt. The music world was perplexed. They had just started to come to terms with the concept of the fortepiano, and here was Gambolputty, playing a contraption that looked like a steam engine had a love child with a harpsichord. The critics were befuddled, the audience was bemused, and Gambolputty was, well, Gambolputty. His compositions, much like his instruments, were a pandemonium of discordant notes and rhythmic chaos. They were a far cry from the harmonious symphonies of his contemporaries. And yet, there was something oddly captivating about the cacophony. It was as if Gambolputty was challenging the very definition of music, pushing the boundaries of what was considered melodious. Despite the musical world's bewilderment, one thing was certain. Johann Gambolputty was not just another composer. He was a visionary, a radical, a maverick. He dared to question, to experiment, to redefine. His instruments, as absurd as they might have been, were a testament to his ingenuity and his refusal to conform. In a world of violins and flutes, Johann Gambolputty was playing the steam piano. His symphony was not one of harmony, but of discord, of chaos, of absurdity. And in doing so, he left an indelible mark on the music world, one that continues to baffle, bewilder, and bewitch. Johann Gambolputty's music was, let's say, ahead of its time. Symphonies, a symposium of dissonance and musical chaos, were far from the polished masterpieces of his contemporaries. Johann Sebastian Bach was crafting harmonious fugues. Gambolputty was occupied with directing an orchestra of steam pianos and horse-drawn kazoos. His audacious approach left the musical elite perplexed, and they dismissed his work as audacious absurdity. Yet Gambolputty's music discovered an unexpected audience. Not in the grand concert halls of Vienna or the opulent opera houses of Milan, but in the modest, rodent-infested homes of Quirkington. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Johann Gambolputty unwittingly became the Pied Piper of village. His ahead-of-its-time music, it seemed, was the ideal repellent for the troublesome rodents that plagued the villagers. The townsfolk saw the irony in this situation. Here was a man whose music was too innovative for the human ear, yet it resonated with the rodents. His most popular composition among the furry critters was The Annoying Fly, a piece so dissonant it made a screeching chalkboard sound like a lullaby. The villagers reported that, upon hearing the opening bars, rodents would scurry away as if fleeing from a Pied Piper. And so, Gambolputty found a niche for his music. No longer just a composer, he became a savior, a defender of the village's pantry. His compositions, once scoffed at by the music world, were now celebrated by the villagers. They even claimed that the local mice developed a peculiar appreciation for postmodern art, a testament to Gambolputty's influence. In the end, Johann Gambolputty's life was as ahead of its time as his. His unique approach to composition, once a source of mockery, became his legacy. He was not just a composer, but an innovator, a musical maverick who dared to defy convention. And in the process, he became Johann Gambolputty, the unintended Pied Piper. Johann Gambolputty's life was as eccentric as his music, right till the end. His unexpected exit from this world, much like his creations, was a symphony of the unusual. His wife, well familiar with the peculiarity that mirrored her husband, responded to his sudden demise with a simple shrug and a remark that encapsulated the core of their life together. It was quintessential for Johann to just depart unexpectedly like that, wasn't it? The music realm, perpetually mystified by Gambolputty's oddities, found itself in a state of amused confusion. They lifted their glasses to salute the man who had redefined the term Baroque brilliance. His legacy, though confusing to some, was undeniably unique. It was a testimony to the strength of individuality and the enchantment that can emerge from wholly accepting one's idiosyncrasies. His compositions, initially met with puzzled expressions and indifferent ears, had found a surprising home in the hearts of the villagers. Even the local mice had developed a taste for his pioneering melodies. The villagers, once frantic for a solution to their rodent issue, found themselves yearning for the discordant notes that resonated through their streets. In a fascinating turn of events, Gambolputty's unusual symphony of sounds had turned into a loved part of their daily routines. His unconventional creations, initially aimed as a form of artistic prowess, had instead become a unique form of pest management, and gradually, a treasured part of the village's cultural tapestry. Gambolputty's legacy endured in the most unforeseen ways. His music, once faced with perplexity and contempt, had found a spot in the hearts of those who had initially turned a deaf ear. His life, a tribute to the allure of eccentricity, served as a sign that there is a place for everyone in this world, regardless of how extraordinary their dreams may appear. Thus ended the symphony of Johann Gambolputty, the maestro of Baroque brilliance. His life was a testament to the power of individuality, and his music, a celebration of the wonderfully advanced. Just when you thought Johann Gambolputty's story couldn't get any stranger, along came Disney. In a twist that would have made Gambolputty himself chuckle, his life of eccentricity and oddball compositions was spun into a whimsical, animated spectacle. The cinematic adaptation, aptly named The Life and Works of Johann Gambolputty, was a Baroque circus of absurdity, brought to life by none other than Barbra Streisand. Streisand, a titan of talent with a knack for the ridiculous, embraced the challenge of playing Gambolputty with gusto. She twanged the Jew's harp, tinkled on the steam piano, and even attempted to play the horse-drawn kazoo, all while wearing a pink wig and a pair of oversized spectacles. Disney, in its inimitable style, transformed Gambolputty from an obscure historical footnote into a delightful, if peculiar, musical icon. And so, Johann Gambolputty danced his way into the annals of Disneyfied musical tales, his absurd symphony continuing to play on. As Johann Gambolputty's distinctive compositions started to turn heads, a singular trait of his music surfaced that baffled everyone. It echoed the sound of a dot matrix printer. Yes, you heard it right, a dot matrix printer. This was not just peculiar, but it was as if he was a man from the future, giving a caveman an encyclopedia. The clattering, rattling and whirring of the printer, once a typical soundtrack in offices worldwide, found an uncanny reflection in Gambolputty's works. Audiences were initially puzzled, with some even asserting that they could nearly visualize the printed words in the composition. However, as time passed, this confusion was replaced with fascination. Critics began to praise it as an auditory exploration into the mechanized heart of humanity. The world of music, always on the lookout for novelty, welcomed this new machine-like sound. It sparked a wave of experimental musicians, thereby leading to the inception of a brand new genre, mechano-symphonics. Gambolputty, the man who played the horse-drawn kazoo and turned a rodent deterrent into a musical instrument, had once again an indelible impact. His music, much like the man himself, was a symphony of the oddities, continuing to resound in the most unexpected ways.